when I'm talking about transforming the mindset of the board. So I'm going to open this up, and I know, Jerry, this is somewhat what you talked about during the retreat, but I just open this up before moving on right quick to our next topic. But actually, it's something else I need to. I'm sorry, something else I want to talk about. When I talk about transforming the mindset, the one thing that we really have not done a good job of is holding the officials accountable to us as well. You know, and when I say that, how often do we see some elected officials? Some we see more than, others we don't see at all. And again, without calling any names, most of people who I'm talking about. I'm like, when was the last time we saw, our city and state elected officials at a community board meeting in person? Right. So if you remember, this guy, brother Mike X, used to always come to our meetings and ask that question. And he's absolutely right. When was the last time we saw, outside of their representatives? I'm not talking about their representatives. I'm talking about the elected official himself. The last one, and I think I remember seeing, was Senator Bailey. I mean, that I can recall. Obviously, Assemblyman Denowitz has been by quite recently. So is former councilman, no longer a councilman, but for those that but for those that do, so his replacement is going to be selected pretty soon. But we need to hold them accountable, because they're accountable to us, because there are things that we need to know that they may know. So what do we do to hold them accountable to transform our mindset? We need them to help us, right? Because there are things that are happening in our community that, quite frankly, should not be happening, in my opinion. And, in talking to some of you, I know that some of you share that opinion that these things should not be happening as well. So we got to hold them accountable, and we hold them accountable by doing what we need to do. And I think all of you, we'll talk about that a little bit. But more importantly, and I know Mr. said this in our February meeting, was we need to stop these developers. And why do I not to say that? George and I have, and Ursula as well, have been on borough budget consultation for the last, what? We did it all day today, and we did it, well, not last week, George. Yeah, 2 weeks ago on the 9th, right? And
Yeah, it was
so
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
2 weeks ago, right? One of the things that we need to do and we can do as a board is we can actually develop our own properties. So I think Mr. Hall has said this, like I said, at our February meeting, that we need to identify the properties, and that's true, we do. But I found out, and one of the messages that I took home from the budget consultation 2 weeks ago was that we can actually develop our own properties. And Ms. Bennett, I actually told you that, actually, I'm sorry, it was Ms. Benitez as well. I talked about, actually, you too, Ms. Bennett. But I spoke with you two about that, how we can actually develop our own properties. We need to encourage our own economic development. Green space. I think I was speaking with a reporter who's going to be following us this year. This reporter is a graduate student at the CUNY School of Journalism. But, he was looking at what we said. One thing that we do need, our one of our platforms, we need more green space. Well, why do we need more green space, and why will that be beneficial to us in 412? More green space would mean that we would have a healthier community board, right? We'd have a healthier community board. More green space will obviously bring, if you go out and relax, that will bring down hypertension rates. That would actually lessen asthma, because, of course, you've got more foliage to capture the particulates and the carbon that's in the air. And more importantly, encourage green space by encouraging even more community gardens. If we have more community gardens, we can actually eat some of our own foods that we plant. There's actually a community garden right around the corner from me, not on 211th Street, but I forget, is it Carl Place? I think is the name of the street. But in any event, they have their own community garden. And so how can we go about doing this? And we can go about doing this by applying for grants. By having a 501, we can apply for city grants, we can apply for state grants that will allow all this to happen. So this is my vision for transforming the board to greatness, and in order to be great, and we can at least start the ball rolling this year. So I want to open this up. Anybody want to touch base on that before we move on to the next agenda item? Nobody?
Point of order,
Mr.
Dr.
Hall?
Yeah, that space you're talking about on Carlisle Place, I think
Yes.
that's run by Parks. I believe that's run by Parks. They've been at the board. I don't know when the last time they've been there. I guess Ursula could check that. But they have been there, and they allow people to plant. Okay,
Right.
There's a few places of that dimension. So it's just, if you're talking about acquisitions, it's just something to take into advisement. That's all.
Right. No, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, that's why I'm that's why I'm soliciting ideas. I'm giving you my ideas. I want to hear what you guys are thinking. So thanks, Mr. Hall.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Wow. I'm not, I'm just like, I'm surprised I'm hearing nobody else.
So as far as the 501c3, that's something that we still have to speculate. We have to look at that because we do have to understand, the legal part of the 501c3. Mr. Rivera from Community Board 9 was at our meeting that we had in at the beginning of this month. And he posed some pretty good questions, like that we could contact the Conflict of Interest Board to find out. But it's just about being clear. Yeah, it's just about being clear about our legal. Okay, you keep breaking up.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. So what I want to do is I actually want to talk about committee reports in a little bit. So give me. So hang on to. I want to hold on to that because I want to talk about that. And actually not in the next topic. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. So hang on to that for me. Okay. I see somebody that I do not recognize, and so I see Mr. Henry Peets is there. So Mr. Peets, I'm going to unmute you and have you introduce yourself and tell us about yourself.
Yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Henry Peets. I'm actually new to the area. I actually just moved here, I would say maybe about a little over a year ago. I moved over to Bronxwood by 232nd, just bought my first home. And I'm really invested in the community. I was invested in community board. I believe it was 15. That's where I used to live by Mount Hope in Tremont. So I'm born and raised in the Bronx site. So this is my first community meeting with you guys. So I'm just, trying to get acclimated with everyone and then hopefully, give some insight on what's going on or, just hopefully help in any way, shape or form. Seems like I may be the youngest individual here, but I'm just trying to see if, we get some new insight on things that are going on. Like I said, I'm brand new to the area. I'm starting to learn about this. I know about the Bronx, this part of the Bronx, but I've never lived here. So now, I just definitely want to put my 2 cents and have you see if I can help in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, well, thank you. And let me put you back on mute. So thank you. Our full board meeting is coming up on Thursday, so I'll say stay tuned. So before I turn this over, because I know Jerry wants to talk about what we did talk about with the 501, and I do want her to talk about that, what we've been doing over the summer. Anything else on transformation? Nope. Okay. Well, let's move forward. So, Jerry, part of that is going to be when we talk about committee reports and recommendations. So that's coming up in part 3. So I want to go to part 2 and of the agenda and talk about district budget consultations. And so, and this kind of sort of gets to what you're going to talk about in a little bit, Ajeria. So as I said before, what George and I and Ursula have been doing is we have participated in borough budget consultations. So I don't know. Let me just get a show of hands outside of Ms. Lanzana, who we can't see, and Ms. Rosati. How many of you guys know what budget consultations are? Okay, 1, 2. Okay, Ursula, I know you know. Okay, so Clinton and Ajeria and Mr. Hall, right? So Miss Benitez. Okay. So Miss Claude, you're the only one that doesn't know. So I'll just go through a quick synopsis right quick. Budget consultations are where you as a community board, what happens is you get the city agencies together with the community boards and you talk about your needs for the year and your budget for the year. Normally what you do is you submit questions beforehand to these agencies, and then they will write out their answers. And then, of course, like for instance, George moderated a couple of sessions today. I think you did what, the NYPD and NYCHA, right, George? Okay, today, and I think he moderated the session with DHS, of course, which is one of our favorite agencies here, 2 weeks ago. And so you get to ask them questions beforehand. They answer the questions, and then you can ask follow-up questions. And so if you remember, prior to the June meeting, I had asked for one of the ideas was to have a district budget consultation. In other words, just for us here at Community Board 12, so that it ask questions of the agencies. And again, some of us wrote questions, and then most of us didn't. And I think that was disappointing. But I think that's something that we need to have, even though we were supposed to do it over the summer. I still think it's something that we need to do in order to ask fervent questions that we have of various city agencies. And 3 of the ones that I thought about were 2 of the most egregious offenders to us, which is homeless services as well as housing preservation and development. And I think I have another one listed on the for the general board meeting, but I can't remember what it is right now. But in my mind, in my idea, and this is again a way to hold not only the agencies but our electeds accountable. Some of the ideas I had was inviting, obviously every board member is invited, every elected official will be invited, as well as community members such as Mr. Peets, who's on this meeting right here. So that was my idea, but the idea was to also have a massive presence to flex our muscle, because one of the things that I'm talking about in transforming into greatness is to put the fear of God into some of our city agencies. Because quite frankly, I'll just share with you what happened during our first budget consultation meeting early 2 weeks ago. Was that we had the housing preservation and development in no uncertain terms say, well, yeah, we know you want the project, but screw you, we think you need housing, so we're going to give them the green light anyway. And so, and again, I know that I didn't want to take up too much time. And so I'm hoping that, and I forgot to talk with George about this because I was so mad. If you remember, you had a meeting that day, your budget committee meeting was that day. And if you remember, that was a meeting I was pissed off. That's pretty much what, and I told you kind of sort of what happened was that he's like, yeah, screw you guys. Yeah, I know that y'all don't want it. We've seen everything, but screw you. We're going to approve them anyway. So that's because they don't fear us. They don't fear our elected officials. They don't fear us, and they don't fear what we stand for. And the only way to change that is to flex our muscle and embed. And that gets to what Ms. Borsati was about outreach. And so
Is it just me, or can anybody else hear Dr. Burke?
Dr. Burke, are you still there?
Okay. Yeah, we lost. You may have some connectivity issues, Michael.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm hearing you, but you're coming in broken up.
Oh.
Can you hear me, Planzano?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm having some network problems.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so what do you have to say about the budget patients? What are you thinking?
You're asking me. Good idea. We on the green, we can use the green space as a reason to curb new developments. And especially with the asthma and diabetes, our borough is the worst in the country. So we need more space, yes. So in doing that, for the health of the citizens here, we should have more green space and cut down on the building, use it for their health.
Right.
On the
So
budget, yes.
No, I was about to say, I think according to what Mr. Hall just says, that we would need to go to parks in order to make that happen. So did I hear you? Heard you right, Mr. Hall, right? That we would need to engage parks.
Well, yeah, there's a few things we can do. My mind is dead set on the New York City Housing Authority. So right now, I'm like, you do have to contact parks with regards to some of the green space that's in existence. All right.
Okay.
But I had something else on my mind, and it was regarding New York City Housing Authority. Since you had budget consultations today. I did not know that NYCHA was coming in, and I'm doing a one-man battle here because I don't know if they mentioned that to you, Mr. Torres, but E-More's been sold to another developer. All right. And I don't know if anybody's aware of this. All right. But there's a lot going on. And, they want to present this blueprint for change. And I have no idea what transpired. But I'm on top of all of those factors. And I'm trying to set something up so the chair of NYCHA could come up to this particular area of the Bronx and describe what he's trying to do so we can scrutinize and criticize him to the utmost. Because that's two developments that are no longer with NYCHA, and he wants to change the dimensions in some respect. So mentally, I'm elsewhere. So I stand accused, but I hear what you're saying, Dr. Burke.
Okay, so something like, okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, again, this is from, so if you have budget consultations with NYCHA, like I said, we did too. And so at some point I need to, look at this and scrub this and, talk with, George, because he's obviously better, than me. And I guess he's supposed to, he's our district manager. But, I want to take a look at this and, figure out which questions that, we can have. But I think, to that end, I know that, NYCHA did come and say that there are a couple of, not just, ones you're talking about, but there are a couple.
Yeah.
On the problem.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk.
Okay.
We'll talk.
Okay.
Michael,
All right. Great. Thank you so much. All right. So,
Michael,
yes.
I just want to interject on this. You were talking about green spaces, us
Yes,
trying
ma'am.
to claim the green spaces. You know, that's where 197A plan could come in and help us put together our thoughts as to what we want to do with some of the spaces that we have in this area.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
I'm writing this down, Ms. Benita. Okay. Great. So, anyway, so what do you guys think about the district budget conversation? You guys thinking that's maybe a good idea to, bring these agencies in and have a conference with them? And do we want to look at October, November? What are we thinking?
Well, aren't these budgets due for the planning board? Aren't they due in October? They're due by the end of October to go to the mayor.
I know the answer to that, George. If you can help me with that, I don't think that's the case, but I don't know.
The responses to district, but the responses to the budget is correct. They have to go back to the city planning organization, and then they go, they send them to OMB for consultations. But that doesn't preclude us from having conversations with agencies. District budget consultations are supposed to happen theoretically in June. Right now, we're doing borough consultations. And there is a timeline. So yeah, by October, really the end of this month. Well, no, we still have one more. So yeah, by October, our responses will be in. Our district needs will be in.
Right.
So I guess I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that we should, as far as the district needs, that's the thing. We have to put together what are the district needs, and we have to organize just to say what they are, so that it clearly what we think that the district needs or what the district does need can go in. It seems like it's a little bit short to do a survey, so to speak, a survey in the community to find out what their needs are. So even in terms of us getting together to kind of review what that is, I think we should do that sometime in October, like around the middle of October or so, because it's kind of late, right now. We could have done a quick survey for the community at the community boards or whatever. It could have been done virtually by a poll. There is a polling feature that is on WebEx that they could have answered, and we could have structured that. And we can continue to do that. Maybe we could continue, since George said, it doesn't preclude that getting that information. So we could still do that. But in terms of being in alignment and being in compliance with having something to them, say by October, I think that we should get together and meet. So we may want to consider the polling feature also.
Let's chat about that. I see Ms. Benitez has her hand up. So Ms. Benitez.
Reason why I had
Oops, hang on, sorry about that.
The only reason why I had my hand up was when you're talking about the district needs and so forth. That's why I was trying to clue you into the 197A plan, because all what you're asking to do by polling and so forth, we could do it through maybe a consultant or someone that can come in and formulate that plan for us, because it is a detailed project that you're talking about, but it would be all inclusive of what your needs may be for the district. So that's something that you should also think about going forward as one of our plans to do something, and not try to do it yourselves, but do it through a third party to put that all together for us.
Okay.
That's food for thought. I'm just throwing it out
That's
there.
fine. Because I can't, Ms. Bennett has always said, which I agree with her, I can't do this by myself. So, you need everybody on deck. You know what I mean? So I think I saw Mr. Hall with his hand up.
Yeah, I just would like to say, and that is a good point, but it's been my experience that every district chair should take part in the budget hearings so that they get a full understanding on how it works. But in order to get the information, you probably would have to compile all the reports from each particular segment to find out what is needed in the best interest of the community. So that's what this is really all about. Now, in order to get the full-fledged idea, you have to take the reports that the committee chairs come up with, because that's your assessment right there. All right. Now you take that and you come up with something that you want to make a presentation on behalf of Community Board 12. So that's the name of the game. But if the chairs know how this works and they see it, I think it helps tremendously, and it helps you expedite what's necessary to vocalize it and for you to get the clear picture of the need. Okay. So it's something to think about.
Well, like I said, I'm willing to learn, obviously, as I said, I don't know everything. And that's why, as a team, we can get it done. I guess I definitely want to hold these people accountable. And, I don't know if we can, like I said, not say I don't know, you can do anything. So, even if we may not do it right this year, at least do something. And then, going into, next year, just, like I said, learn. And that's how we transform. We can't maybe not do everything in one time, but at least start taking little baby steps. At least, for me, and I appreciate all of the ideas,
Well,
I just want to say that. So, okay. Now I want to get into committee reports and recommendations. So, that's part 3 on the agenda for everybody. And I'm going to make sure that I'm going through my notes properly. So we had 3 committee meetings over the summer. Actually, I'm trying to think. I know the Economic Development Committee met. I know the Bylaws Committee met. The Nominations Committee, I know the Housing Committee met. The Nominations Committee meeting tomorrow, and I know Library and Cultural Affairs will be meeting on Wednesday. Of the committees, I only have 2 that are bringing up motions that, well, technically 3, but 2 that are under my purview: Economic Development and Bylaws, that have motions that are coming up for a vote. So, Mr. Hall, I wanted to ask you this question because I know we had a Housing Committee meet. Oh, I see, you got your hand up, Ms. Benitez? Still? Or was that from the last time? Okay. So I know that we have a, I don't think your committee brought, well, I'm going to talk about something, but I don't think you guys have a motion because I don't think the entire committee was there, right, Mr. Hall, for when those guys came in from, what you call it? Yeah, the Grace United Methodist Church.
Okay. Here's the situation. I thought the gentleman wrote the letter back the next day, and there's several ways of looking at this. First of all, they have an as of right, and we already know that. They were only looking for a letter of approval. Okay, they don't really need it. However, that's what they were looking for. All right. When we run into circumstances like that, it's a question of, are we going to do this or are we not? If we don't give them a letter, they're still going to go through with what they have to do anyway. It's just that it's as of right. And they wanted to submit something to HPD if they could ascertain some tax credits. And that was the name of the game. And I don't think that was the case. I don't think they can ascertain anything at this present time because of our circumstances. And when I say our circumstances, I mean the pandemic. But in any event, that was the only request that was there. So it wasn't monumental, all right? But I heard your opposition because I hung around waiting to deal with the nominations committee. So I heard your opposition. And I wanted to discuss that with you because your opposition dealt with a systemic measure when you mentioned, I think it was something with 26 or something to that. When you got to a certain line, it turned you off. But that's a systemic problem. And until you change the systemic circumstances, things are the way they are. And that was the conversation I was going to have with you as it lent itself to that. But all I did not have the entire board there. I am going to need some assistance with housing because I need more members on that board. All right. And I need experience. And I don't know if Mr. Pete was still around, but this is a far cry away from where he used to live. So I'm glad that he's here and he wants to help because we can use all the help we can get. But that being said, I just wanted to tell you that it was a simple request that they were asking for support. All right. That's all it really was.
Mr. Hawk, actually, we're going to talk about that too. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. Board members, because I know a couple of committees, I know Ms. Benitez has asked me for some too. Board members, and we're going to talk about that late in what Mr. Stricker and Ms. Borsati is doing to kind of sort of clean that up. So technically the only things that we need to vote on have the board vote on is outside of nominations. So taking nominations out and bylaws have motions that we actually need to vote on. Right. Yes, Ms. Okay. And Ms. Borsati, she's muted. So Carla, you I know that you got a motion that we need to vote on too. That's on the floor. Carla. Okay. I guess Carla's being silent today, but that's all right. So there we go. So on that note, that actually takes me into something else, which is record keeping. Now I know that actually it's funny because all three people who were on that call are here. So Carla Borsati, Ms. Claude, and Ageria, Ms. Bennett. We attended the what was that? It was a parliamentarians workshop, something like that. Is that what it was? Parliamentarians workshop. So it's funny that all three people that were on that call, that was last week. When was it? Thursday? I want to say, last week Thursday.
Yeah, last week Thursday.
Right. So all three. So Ms. Claude, I'm gonna have you go first. Can you tell the body what you got out of that?
Because I tried not to walk. I think it was quite a lengthy meeting, but quite informative. Excuse me. In taking minutes, I was of the impression that whatever was discussed, who said this, who said that, that would be included more or less in the minutes. But what we learned is that in the minutes, it's the action that was taken and not what was said. It's only the action. That's what's necessary. And whatever motions were made, more than natural, those should be there also. And any resolutions. But it should not be word for word, whatever anyone said. That should not be in the minutes. But the main focus should be on the action that was taken, the motions and the resolutions made.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. It was a lengthy meeting, but then she touched on other things, but this was the main focus of the meeting.
Now, Carla and I were actually texting back and forth during the meeting, and so thank you, Miss Carla. You want to add anything to that? Okay, I tried to unmute, but seems like everybody can hear me. Okay, Carla, you are unmuted. Hello? Okay, Carla may be having audio issues. Can everybody hear me still? Can you hear me? Okay. She may be having audio issues. Carla, if you want to, you can go and chat because because you're unmuted. So, Ageria, you were there. What did you get out of it?
Well, it's a couple of things. One is because I've had experience on being on the board, and I had experience in being a secretary, and what she said just confirmed for me just what taking minutes are. Taking minutes is just about the facts, and you have to sign them. You have to date it, that you're the ones, respectfully submitted by, and that's the secretary. And I got that unfortunately, she kind of touched on it, and she said about the websites. Websites are important because it is. There are people who would look to the website and how those things have to be updated. And, minutes have to be bound. They have to be bound by the year. These are the minutes for this year. These are the minutes for whatever the year is. They're bound, they're put in a book or something, and they're kept because minutes are public information. And when the public wants to know, they're going to ask you for those minutes. They will ask you for the minutes. And I remember this out of my 15 years of being on Mind Builders board and me having to develop a board of directors. I had to put the board of directors together. I was an employee, but I had to put the board of directors together. I went to United Way of New York. That's where we got all our board training and board development on. So, it's just about us moving forward. It's like in the transformation that we're going to ensue right now, it's just about doing it that way.
Right. And I see Ursula has, I'm sorry, I see Ursula has her hand up.
And that employees should not be the ones taking the minutes.
That's the main thing, right? So that's the main thing. So yeah, exactly. I don't think we do that though. We don't ask George or Ursula to take minutes. I don't think. At least, let me go back. I don't remember that. Let me just say that I don't remember that. So
No.
I don't recall, but not to say it hasn't happened before I got there. So Ursula, you had your hand up.
So I used to take minutes. That was my job.
Oh, really? Okay.
Before Carla started. So I'm gonna say this. The minutes are done the way they are done because that's how Father wanted them done. That's why they're always long. Number two, we do have if I receive minutes from whoever was the secretary at that time, we have hard copies. I go back to the 80s with the hard copies.
Yeah.
They are available if anybody wants them. I do have hard copies.
Yeah. So the minutes, because
no, go ahead, Jerry. Go ahead. I was just going to comment on the policy.
Here's the thing, and this probably doesn't happen a lot in, typically with a planning board particularly, but in 501c3, it does happen. The minutes are your protection when you are called into court. When you go to court, the minutes are your protection, okay? So that's why they're so important. And how they're done is so important. It really is. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because that was.
And I know because of an agency that I was with, and when it was flooded with the investigators, that's what they went to. They wanted to see the minutes of the agency for at least 10 years.
Yes.
And they pulled those books. To look at the accuracy of minutes. They wanted to know just what, when, and how, and who was involved in that. So they do get to be kind of important.
Well, let me also say this. I think that's one of the things that they said, and I think Carla said the same thing that Ursula just said.
You're Can anybody else hear him, or is it just me?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, there's a connection issue.
Yeah, he's in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You there, Dr. Berg?
Okay. Hello? Okay, I got a call. Optimum is yeah, they're kind of running me over. So anyway, here's what I want to say about but even more is foilable. Our, and we were able to provide it to them. So that was, problematic. And so, I shares is that, so for instance, for our upcoming meeting, I know I received minutes from Transportation Committee too. Transportation. So I don't know how Clinton didn't let me forget that Transportation met. But Transportation submitted minutes, and bylaws submitted minutes. That was it. So I know that other met, and there weren't any minutes submitted. But especially
I
since we're
submitted
calling
minutes.
on a vote. So
But
what I'm asking committee chairs to do. I'm sorry, Ms. Medina, what'd you say?
I've submitted minutes for the August meeting that I had. I did
Oh, did you?
submit it.
Okay. Okay. I didn't see those, Ms. Benitez. I need to maybe go back and check my email. Oh, I'm sorry, Ursula. Yes, Ursula. Okay. Oh, you got them? Okay. All right. Ursula says she's got them. Okay.
Okay.
So, what I'm sorry. So I apologize, Ms. Benitez. So, bylaws and who economic development bylaws and that submitted minutes. So I saw that committee chairs, we've got to submit minutes. So Mr. Hall, so here's what I do. So for instance, I'm recording this now, right? So what I used to always do, and I guess I picked this up when I was in school because I didn't want to miss. Sometimes I know my note taking is good as it can be or should be. So what I always do is hit the record button. So I think I give a great example when we did for those at the February executive committee meeting where Alfredo made that famous comment.
Yeah.
All right, so most of you, Alfredo made his famous comment, and take notes, and because again, everything do is foilable, because it's just like over. And if you remember a guy that we had back in, was it where minutes? If you remember him questioning us, board members, where are your minutes? Why aren't they on the website? So that's something that I think we need to do a better job of, is record keeping. And hopefully that's something that I'm going to insist upon, and hope that we do a good job of this year. Any question?
Yeah. That being said, you want minutes with regards to this event we had last month, Dr. Burke? You want minutes from the housing? Would you like that? And I mean, I'll bring up the question that they were seeking. If you want that, I'll make sure you have it. That's not a problem. But if that's what you're alluding to, that's not a problem. I don't think we had a quorum neither. But that being said, you still need to have something. You need to have something concrete. So I'll get something to you. That's not a problem.
Minutes without, I appreciate that, Mr. Hall. You can write. You asked for more board members, and I got to get some, as well as Ms. Benitez. So that actually, more actually almost done. You guys have noticed, hopefully, is that one of the things that I want to do was institute vice chairs. So, for instance, vice chair one, and also Clinton. Where's Clinton at? He was in here. But nonetheless, we have vice chairs of committees, because we want to keep things moving along. So if you don't have a vice chair, let me know, so that we can talk about that. Membership, I know that we talked about at least 5 to 7 members each committee. So I think, Ms. Claude, I know, because you've got about 5 members, right? Hang on, Ms. Claude. Wait. Got you.
Yeah. Yes, we have used those folks before.
Members, right?
But when I
So, hold on, I could add
it's me. It's got to be on my end. So
I had to start it over because something was going.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You've got enough members on your committee, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because I have I have about 4.
Okay. So we can keep
whatnot.
2, 3, 4.
And Mr. Hall, so we've got to do enough. I'm hoping that. So I asked Ursula earlier. Listen, no. So work on that. I want to mention also, almost done, is if you noticed. Oh, I'm sorry, Clinton. Yes. Yes, Clinton.
I heard you mention my name before I signed off and signed back on.
Something all I said was, I'm sorry. Let me mention, not forget that transportation had a meeting.
No, and then you said something about the committees.
Yeah, I said y'all committee met.
No, but I'm saying I think you were saying something about a co-chair.
Yeah, vice chair.
Vice chair for me?
No, I'm saying for in general, Clinton, in general, what I'm saying is vice chairs. So your committee is gonna disappear after this next meeting.
I don't really have a vice chair, but it's okay.
Right,
I'm gonna knight someone.
But right, I mean, that's what I'm saying. But somebody like Ms. Clark, somebody like Mr. Hall, somebody like Ms. Benitez, in education, who soon the chair is going to be Ms. Dickerson. People like that.
Okay.
Ms. Rosati serving is vice chair of bylaws. So for instance, like Ms. here.
We lost him again.
Who was that? Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's absolutely horrendous. Jerry, while I'm calling up my next thing, can you talk about your committee, please?
Yeah, so the ad hoc bylaws, the ad hoc committee is about finding out, exploring the 501c3. The 501c3 prospect, its legal ramifications as far as the board and what it can and can't do as far as the board is concerned. And the other thing about the 501c3 is being clear that you have to have a president, a chairperson, and a treasurer, a secretary, treasurer, and a president. Those are three things you have to have on the 501c3. The other thing to consider is how do you hand it off to subsequent board members? Because if you're on the board and you only have a certain amount of term in the board, if you are a leadership in the board, you only have a certain term, so it's dividing all of those things and looking at this 501c3 to see about its longevity, because people come, people go, people come on the board and they leave the board. So what's to say that you'll have a president, a treasurer, and a secretary that's going to be on the board for a period of time? It has to be more than 2 years. It'll have to be more than 2 years in order to sustain it. So those are the things that has to be explored, and has to be understood. And this 501c3 will have to engage in raising money, because you have to have a purpose. What's your purpose? Like, what is your vision and what's the mission? You have to identify it. You have to identify something. If it's going to be that you're going to raise money to supplement the senior program in the neighborhood, are you raising money to supplement the children in the neighborhood? It has to focus on something, and you have to keep your activities in alignment with that. So it's about just getting together and talking about that. I think it's possible. It is possible to do, but we also have to be clear about the bylaws committee and what the bylaws committee is going to do. And, to see, like, the person, Mr. William or Mr. Rivera from Community Board 9, who came as our guest speaker, he had said that the mistake that he made was in making some of the executive board members the same board member for the 501c3. And that's when it kind of got rattled, and fell apart. Whereas he was doing a regular a festival in the park, but because Parks Department really kind of covered that park and took it over, he couldn't do that. So he just closed it out. Now the one person we didn't hear from, who apparently still has a 501c3, is from Community Board 11. So, just having to find that out.
And I think we also, we speak with the law department. I know that, George, I know we were supposed to, you're supposed to get that information to me. And I know that we've been busy with other things, a la, budget consultation and everything else is hit our desk. So, when you get a moment, you can just drop me who that person is from the law department so that we can, I can follow up. I see you. Yeah, I see your hand up. Yes, sir.
So I did want to jump in to speak about two things. So one, I think we really shouldn't pursue the 501c3. That's my first issue for all the reasons that Ajiria stated, and even more, and even the stuff that William stated. But secondly, you were speaking about committees before and having 4 or 5 board members per committee. I want you to understand, you guys talk about outreach and reaching out to the community, involving more community. Having 4 people decide an issue of 50 board members and then bringing it to committee or bringing it to the full board is like having another committee meeting at the full board level, because there are not enough people on the board who know about any given issue that is raised in committee, which is why I keep beating people over the head about having less committee and more members. If you have a majority of members on committees, if you have 4 committees, for example, land use, having housing, and also planning and zoning in that one committee, and then having a second committee on municipal services, and each of those committees have 20 people, when you bring an item to the board, one, it reduces the number of committee meetings for everybody to have. You put together, for example, a calendar of all the meetings. Do you know that there is a meeting every day this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? And that's almost the same for every day of the week. Now, I love all of you, but I work 9 to 5, and then I have to chime in on these meetings because I'm the administrator for WebEx, and I'm the administrator for Zoom, and I'm the administrator for GoToMeetings. Ursula is off camera right now because she's trying to eat her meal in peace, yet she's participating in this meeting. Now, I'm not complaining about that, but I am complaining that we had a long day today, 9 to 5. Dr. Burke was there, Ursula was there, and I'm participating in a meeting that started at 7 o'clock and it is now 8:10. We haven't really resolved anything. We keep talking about lofty aspirations. And I've always tried and I've always maintained from day one, and that's what my report is going to be on Thursday, is about keeping our house in order. When you guys created the bylaws committee and when you did the 501c3 ad hoc committee and all this other stuff, you're just creating a tremendous amount of strain on the resources that we currently have or don't have. And that, the stuff with the ad hoc 501c3, I think it was pretty clear what Ajiria just said. The board members cannot serve as board members, or board members that are on the community board cannot serve as board members on the 501c3. It is as simple as that. So what do you do with that going forward? And you're right, you have to fundraise. Your purposes for fundraising are so that you can sue another city agency. City agencies don't sue city agencies. This whole conversation about the West Side suing DHS or hiring a lawyer was a community group that did that. It wasn't the community board. So, you have to focus on these things. Secondly, or finally, again, please reduce the number of committees and then deal with the absentee board members. That's all I asked you to do. Literally, that's all I asked you to do is reduce the number of committees and deal with absentee board members. We keep dancing around this issue. So we need to deal with that so that we have a quorum. There's no guarantee that nominating committee is going to be done next week or by Thursday, because we don't know if we're going to have a quorum on Thursday. So we may not be able to vote on things. And that is the concern. We've only had 1 quorum in the last 6 months.
So, George, this is Carla. I logged in differently. Can you hear me? Okay.
We can hear you.
So I do really feel for you and Ursula having to administer all of these evening meetings. Is that really necessary? Can we just...
Are you going to pay for WebEx and Zoom?
I guess what she's saying
Is that the
is
only
that
option?
Yes, that is the only option. I can log on and like I did today, I can designate a host after I've already logged on. But
Okay.
that's
go ahead,
Okay.
caller.
Yeah.
Because I think
Wait.
what
Sorry.
she's saying, George, is go ahead, caller. I don't want to speak for you.
No, I just I know that the staff is very put upon lately because of these virtual meetings, but I've figured out where the green button is on Zoom. Is there not a way for the login credentials to be shared with committee chairs so that we don't have to impose on your time after hours?
no. The short answer is no. But listen, for example, the chairperson of every community board is the only non-city employee that gets a designation of an email address. So, for example, Dr. Hall had a whall@cb.nyc.gov because as chairperson, he or she has certain fiduciary responsibilities. They have to do my timesheet, for example. They have things and responsibilities that they have to do. But even with that, these things are done for the for the community boards, and the community boards are just the employees, the city employees. I know that the borough president's office fills your heads with these visions of grandeur. You guys are public officers, and that's it, of the city of New York. You have no other responsibility other than doing what the three things that community boards are supposed to do: planning and zoning, district needs statement on the budget consultations, and dealing with community complaints. Everything else that every other community board does, or even our community board, is an addition to those three things. We have three things. I have no problem dealing with other things that you guys want to deal with, but I really just want to get the three things that we're supposed to do excellent. I want to nail those things down so that then we can have conversations about doing other things. I've wanted to clean this house for 5 years, and we're still dealing with stuff that we should have dealt with on day one. And again, what's the purpose of having only, you have 12 committees. Carla is the chair of 2 committees, which is against our bylaws. And yet here we are doing it. Again, we're making the same mistakes that the previous leadership has made. So again, please have the bylaws committee just deal with what we need to deal with, which is getting rid of board members, sending out letters, having a vote, and that's it. And as far as the 501c3, abandon it because it's a fool's gold. There is no way that the city is going to say to Community Board 12, just imagine that the Community Board 12 is going to be able to fundraise money from people. Who do you think is going to give us money except developers or people who are interested in doing things in our district? There's no way that community people, this is not the Upper West Side, that we're going to fundraise $100,000 in 2 weeks to fight a homeless shelter that's coming in our district. And if that were the case, you should have the community do it like they did in the Upper West Side.
Right. Well, George, let me push back on that a little bit. So, to that end, do we have those resources? No. We do not have the kind of resources that they do. And the one thing that I guess they have that we're trying to build is community pride. So to your point, I think the one thing that they had, and I think, the core group, has that here. The problem is, of course, there are others who do not. So now I will agree with you on as far as getting rid of board members, and as you and I both know, we went to the borough president's office and, we approached them and said, we need to get rid of X, Y, and Z. And of course, as you and I both know, the borough president was like, screw you guys. I'm putting these people on anyway. Part of that, the excuse was, well, anyway, what the excuses was because you and I both heard it from the same person. So one of the things that we are trying to do is to not tax, the working group that we have here, is that we are doing, and this is, I guess, why I disagree with you also on not doing things. We are getting ideas as how to be great, but at the same time, that's the next thing that was on my agenda, was to talk about contraction of, certain committees and roll up their functions, but not to the 40 you're talking about. But I do agree with the contraction of certain committees. So I won't dispute that, because certain committees do need to be contracted. One of the things that Dr. Hall did mention, which we need to think about at some point, is a discipline committee. But that right now is, another topic for another day. But we can just go right into the last topic, which was those non-participating board members. And that's where Ms. Borsati's committee does come into play, because they have been working on, they've been working hard at that, trying to get rid of board members and shore that language up. In fact, at the last meeting, that's exactly what we talked about. And like I said, right now, I think she and Ms. Benitez are the only people that were here that were on that meeting, but they worked very hard in making sure that we have the language together. And hopefully that will, in fact, Carl, you can probably talk about that now, because that's actually the last topic, truth be told. I did want to show the calendar, so that we can have some sort of structure as to the committees that we do have. But and I know that we have the open meetings law, so that was made very clear at the parliamentary meeting that we were all at. So yes, we're supposed to have open meetings law, but I can tell you that in some cases, if it's something that we need to get done quickly, we've used Google Meet or we've used Zoom outside of this to get something done, relatively quickly. So, again, as to not tax you and as to not tax Ursula, because, again, as you said, we were meeting all day today. Let me just say one other thing. So,
I hope you're not discussing board business in these Zoom meetings. That's against the rules. You can't have. I hope you're not having Zoom meetings outside of the board function. I mean, if you want to speak to another board member and say, "Oh, hey, I was thinking about this," but you understand what the statement you just made, that you're having Zoom meetings for expediency, is against the rules.
No, that's against the law. Yes, we do realize that it is against the law. It's against the open meetings law. You're absolutely right. Because people like no, George. I mean, again, I'm learning the law. People like Henry, of course, would not be able to participate if we don't. And of course, even though he's not a member of the committee, he is here, and that's per the open meetings law, and that's by the rule. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And we're going to try to do things as by the book as possible. Now, I think Ajiri has a question in the chat that what is a consideration of lessening the number of committees? So you want to talk about that, Ajiri, and then
well, I mean,
about the work that you guys have been doing.
Yeah, George did mention about us having less committees. And, I sat and I asked him, how many did you think? He thought about 4. He talked about what the categories would be. And I sat and I looked through the list of committees and I tried to say, well, we could group these committees together. We can group the committees together because they're pretty much the same thing. Like housing has an impact on land use, so why have it separate? Because when housing comes up with housing, they all come up with the land use issues, so why have them separate? So I did try to look at how you can configure it to lessen them. It came out to about the 4, and I don't have the list in front of me, but it did come down to 4 or maybe at best 5. So it is a consideration. It is a consideration because even in that monthly calendar that you had, we are at meetings almost every day. Matter of fact, there are 2 meetings. Like the budget ad hoc committee, like that will be temporary, but the library was on the same day. So
no, it shouldn't be. Let me it shouldn't, because that's the one thing I want to show you. I pulled it up. So no, it is. If I did it, like I said, there should be no meetings on the same day. Let me.
Yeah, it was the third
Recall.
third Wednesday of the month.
Okay, hang on, hold on, because I'm sharing now. So
I know we had the meeting on the first Wednesday of this month, so I am going to do the minutes. I'll send you the minutes tomorrow.
okay, but I'm saying everybody can see my calendar. I mean my computer,
we
right?
could. But if you look at library and cultural affairs, okay, all right. But now the second Wednesday is the 47th Precinct Council. And then I'm just saying, in general, in terms of what people may want to get to.
Third Tuesday is the CEC meeting, and that's why that's blank.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, yeah, I'm not opposed to. I mean, I disagree with the number 4, but I'm not opposed to contracting. Like, for instance, I'm looking at. I have on the agenda environmental concerns and public safety. You know what I mean? I'm in, contracting those 2 committees, based on what I've learned from budget consultation, in particular with the large work of youth service and libraries and cultural affairs, that can potentially be, especially being that they're dedicated people on both. That's a possibility, even though I don't have that on the list, based on what I've learned today. And again, that's something that we can develop, as we go through the month. But and again, so I am for contracting certain committees, but I still think you need a standalone economic development committee. I still think you need a standalone housing committee. This is just me this is me talking. Again, as I said, it's not a dictatorship. I still think you need a standalone health and human services committee. I see land use and housing being somewhat separate. I mean, I think they could share resources, but in my mind, that's what I see. And so that's just how I'm looking at it. So I think that's something that we need to flush out a little bit more. And like I said, I don't want to take too much more time, but I think that we could bring that up, and talk about it, like people call me and so forth and so on, and then we can come back at another EC meeting and discuss that. But I think the last topic, I mean, we talked about the new member manual. I haven't gotten mine yet, and I need to pick it up. So for those members that don't have it, stop by and see George Ursula. And again, I'm one of them. And Alfredo's not here, so I'm not going to talk about the resource guide. But we need to talk about board members. So as most of we approached the borough president and asked him not to reappoint certain people, and they did it anyway. And so that's why Carla and Mr. Strickland, that committee, is doing what they're doing. So Carla, you want to speak to that? Is she still there?
Yes. So, yes, I logged in a different way. So just going back to the committee consolidation, I just want to point out, and Dr. Burke, I think you have the document I sent. It's an analysis of all boards from CB7 to CB12. 2 boards have 7 committees. Every other board has more. So I can't find a board that has fewer than 7. So I think I'm just going to say, if no other board in our half of the Bronx can find a way to consolidate down to below 7 committees, that's probably a good target. So that's was my main comment. I'm sorry, you asked me something completely different.
No, I mean, because I'm trying to find what you sent me, because I mean, I'm looking through your email now, and I'm trying to find it to share. Yeah, I mean, you did send that, and you're absolutely right, because that's why I said I disagree with 4. And as you said, 7 would be a great target, because I think that's what you and I had discussed, and I'm in favor of that. But if we could find which ones that we can do, but I think and that will be less. I'm in disagreement with 4, and like I said, and it's because I'm looking for it, Carla, I can't find it, what you sent me. But like I said,
I just tried to
But you can,
share, but
I
think
have a hand copy of that document. I think somebody else, I don't know if George or Ursula sent it out, but I have a copy of it somewhere. And as I said, I know that I'm looking through what you sent right now. But yeah, you were talking about, so maybe while you're talking about bylaws, I can find it. No, never mind. I just found it. Never mind. So here we go.
okay.
I just found it. So let me.
Share?
Yeah, I'm about to share it. Hang on for a second. Let me call it up.
Sure.
And then I'm going to share it. So that's because I don't want to take up too much more time. So let's go here. I think that's to my email, right? Google Chrome. Here we go.
Right. So some boards combined groups, committees in interesting ways. So, for example, they rolled CB. Oh, okay. I just lost my screen because I'm looking at yours now.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you see mine,
CB10.
right? So this what you're talking about right here, right, Carla?
Yes, exactly. Uh-huh. So if you see, so we got a request a couple of months ago to address veterans issues. CB10 rolled that into youth services, education, and veteran services, right? So it's covered. It's just not its own committee. So CB10 and CB9 each have 7. CB8 kind of ran amok there with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 committees. So yeah, clearly we don't want to go there. But if you look at CB10 and CB9, they consolidated things in a rather efficient way, I think. So if we can get back to 7, I think that would make sense.
Well, let me also say that I think also outside of them, before we added the budget and legislative committees, which of course are ad hoc, we had the third fewest. You know what I mean? And so versus the other community boards, I looked at 11, 8, and 7. And 8, which I think is the most efficient community board in the Bronx, truth be told, they have what 14?
Like 14.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and they're extremely efficient. So I think part of that's why I said part of my pushback is the people that are on the board. You know what I mean? And they have, so I think that gets to what you guys are doing. When I say you guys are on bylaws committee members, as to getting rid of board members. And so why don't you? I mean, as I said, because I'm looking at 8. I mean, I'm not opposed to 7. I am opposed to 4. But like I said, I'm looking at what I think is one of the most efficient community boards. They have 14, and they have minutes, and they make it work. So so everybody can see this, right? So what have you guys been doing, Carlin, as far as bylaws to try to, as George says, remedy our problem?
Well, so if you look at the last minutes I sent in maybe 10 days ago, we're not addressing the issue of standing committees because the executive committee is doing that. We're addressing rules about removing chronically absent board members, and a few other points, but we're not addressing standing committee structure because that should be executive committee work. Or we already understood it to be on the agenda for the executive committee. So we did not address that. The minutes state we left that to the side because this other body has been addressing it. So we're mostly focused on creating another executive committee position of recording secretary and how to remove absentee board members.
Carla, can you keep on talking because I'm trying to find what you sent me, so I can share it.
Okay, well, I will pull up those minutes then, so I have
Yeah, okay, yeah, if you can, because I'm trying to
something more
find
to
it
talk
and
about.
I can't. So
Okay,
if you
okay.
can,
Okay, digging through folders here.
yeah, you know, doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of paper going on these days.
Yeah,
With
tell me about it.
Okay, I think this is the one. Bylaws Committee.
So do you want to share it or do you want me to share it?
Wait, sorry? I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So we also said that the Bylaws Committee has been asked to address when, how new board appointees join committees. So there was that whole expectation that people join committees within 3 months. So we included that, and then we fixed some really boring stuff.
Oh, are you sharing?
Like, what? I'm sorry?
Are you sharing?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Are you sharing?
No.
Sharing. Okay. Go ahead. I'm just asking if you were sharing. That's all.
No, because you shared that document that I sent you.
Right. Okay.
So we went through the bylaws and tried to fix some other items that are just kind of boring but need to be addressed. So for example, our bylaws state that ballots can be open or closed, but that's now a violation of the community handbook, New York City Charter. So in between the fun stuff, we took care of some tidying on issues where our 20-year-old bylaws were just in violation of the city charter and the community handbook for community board members. Sorry, that wasn't very exciting.
This is from the August meeting here. This is not the other one.
No, there's a more recent meeting. Yeah, I'm just typing up. Yes.
I know. But this is from the August meeting. This is one where we had that grand discussion.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Yeah, this is not the right one. I'm sorry.
No, there was an August meeting.
Yeah, I know. It's not the right one.
Yeah, we had to undo some of this because people didn't agree with it, right? So the last meeting was small. It was just our 5 members. But the meeting before, which I believe was August 26th, we had 15 people. Because I think there was an earlier meeting and people stayed on the line. And so we took everybody's feedback on board. So there were opinions from 10 people, not part of the committee, but we heard them, we listened, and they were included in the following minutes. Let me see if I can put my hands on that one quickly. But we took back some things. We had said biennial elections, and that was shot down. So we said, okay, officers only serve for 1 year. And there were a couple of other things. Okay.
I had a proposed amendments, but those aren't the minutes because you sent minutes, and right now I'm trying to find it. I've got the proposed amendments that came, but I'm still.
No, a lot of that changed when we got input from the other 10 participants in that meeting. So, okay, hold on. I can't talk and type at the same time. Yeah, we took back a lot of that because we didn't have consensus.
That was more on the elections, though. Well,
Okay.
that wasn't about. That wasn't in regards to board members. I think we're talking about right now getting rid of board members. That was
We're all
more.
pretty firm
What
on
you're
that
talking
one,
about
yeah.
was more based on the elections.
Right. So everyone is in agreement that everyone who participated is in agreement that if you miss 3 committee meetings or board meetings during a board year, which is July 1 to June 30th, then the process for removing you kicks in. Right, so you can't be automatically kicked off, but there's a process. The board has to vote, but there was no lack of consensus on that point, I can tell you. Okay.
This is from the August meeting, Carl.
I'm sorry?
This is from the August, what I'm sharing now.
Okay. Okay, yes, this is the one. We took back a few things where we were not able to get consensus. We said we're not going to get involved in standing committees because this committee undertook that task. Hold on, let me scroll down a bit. Yes, board members to be removed for any 3 unexcused absences for either 3 full board meetings or 3 committee meetings in 1 board year. And that a board member must serve 1 year of service on the board and 1 year of service on a committee to qualify as a candidate for office. So those are our 3 main points.
So so I think what we agreed to was the following, and I think this is going to help us, is strengthening Article 5, Section 5, revising that policy so that, and where everybody can see that, so that we can, George, challenge us, and we've been challenging it ourselves since the borough president clearly is not going to assist, even though they very well can and should. And most of you know the story that they sent you. We actually shared with them the board members who were not showing up, and they still approved the same board members anyway. After asking for that, we said, okay, you're going to challenge us. We're going to do it ourselves. And so, that's what we're doing. So we're doing it ourselves. And so these are the recommendations that that they brought forth that, and I think, and Carla, you guys still going to try to strengthen those, or is this what you want to bring to the table in October? I mean, in this month?
Well, so this is what we're bringing to the table for Thursday's meeting. I have to finish writing up the language. It's got to be done in community board speak. But yeah, there's still a whole process after this. We just can't remove people. They have to be given an opportunity to explain themselves, and then we have to vote on it as a board. So this is not any kind of a quick win solution. It just gives us the grounds to call people out on their lack of presence.
Okay.
It should be noted, it should be noted that what Carla is speaking to is in the community handbook or handbook for community board members. Am I saying that right, Carla?
Yes. No, it's all in there.
Yeah.
I read that thing every day. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I know that the community, the bylaws committee was looking at just expelling people, and we found out that you can't do that. And the rules that we have currently in our bylaws are good enough now to bounce people. Literally, all we have to do is send a letter to them, and board members have to vote them out. It's as simple as that. The rules already exist. There's no need to reimagine the language. It really just requires us having a quorum at the full board and having board members have the guts really to vote your friends out. It's as simple as that. That's the reason why we've never done it in our history. There's a reason why other community boards don't do it. But to address your point, Dr. Burke, yes, we met with the borough president's office, and the borough president's office hasn't always been very supportive because they keep reappointing these people. So, we do have to do the uncomfortable thing, not me, but you guys, because you're the board members, you have to vote your friends off the board who miss meetings. It's as simple as that. And the language is already there. We don't need to reinvent the language. The bylaws already state that if you miss 3 meetings, you can be brought up for questioning. It's as simple as that. There's no need to revisit this issue.
I think it says 3 consecutive meetings, though, George, is what the bylaw says. If you read the bylaw, consecutive meetings, what we're now saying is that you now have to miss 3 meetings total.
No. The bylaws don't state 3 consecutive meetings. It's just 3 meetings. So we're being extra right now. We're trying to define what those because other boards, for example, do 1 board meeting, a missed committee meeting, and then another board meeting. That's 3 meetings. That's it. We're going into the fact where you're saying, if you miss 3 consecutive meetings and 3 consecutive board meetings, then we can bounce you. I think that what our bylaws say are the same thing the Community Board 8 says, the Community Board 3 says, which, again, Community Board 8 doesn't vote people off, so let me retract that. But they're the same thing. Father Gorman copied everybody else's bylaws. We're not reinventing the wheel here. So, again, our bylaws are pretty sufficient. We just have to write the letter, send it certified mail to board members, and then give them the opportunity to state their case. If they don't show up, it's gravy, because then they will never have stated their case, and then we could just vote them off. But if they come, then board members are going to have to make the decision. For example, if our chairman shows up all of a sudden in September on Thursday and says, hey, I still want to be a part of the board and I want to be your chairman, how are people going to vote? I purposely bring up provocative things because you have to think about these sorts of things. And, this is where I'm at. We're trying to clean stuff up. We don't need to go to have a bylaw committee. And by the way, we have 15 committees. So we have 11 standing committees according to our bylaws. And then you have 4 ad hoc committees. You have legislative, bylaws, budget, and nominating committee. So you have 15 committees now. So it's not, we don't have the least, we have the most in the borough. We've always had the most. So again, I'm sorry that I'm bringing this up in exec, but I'm going to bring this up and I've been bringing this up over the course of almost 2 years now. The committees are not patronage mills. This is not the city council. None of you people get paid. We're not doling out vice chairs and chairs so that we can do favors for our friends. We have a job to do. Let's do that job. Let's vote these board members off. Let's send them the letters. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Well, George, I do think we've upped the board's game in terms of getting rid of people, because the community board handbook says 3 consecutive meetings. But we're saying any 3 meetings, and you're up for dismissal. So we're taking a more aggressive approach than the borough president's office. So yeah, we may have to make some tough decisions and vote our friends off, but
if they're not doing a job, then they.
Sorry, Ben.
Let me. Yeah, because I thought it just said 3 consecutive meetings, and so what did so if what you're saying, George, and hell, that gives us even more strength, because
Yes.
You missed 3 meetings in con. Saying there's 4, it said 3 consecutive meetings. So now let's just use a scenario that you just laid. Meeting, right? And then they next month, boom. Now I have the ammunition before we even get to November that we can write the letters and say you missed 3, and then we can go from there. If what you're saying is the case.
Hold on. I'm going to share my screen. I have the board minutes right here. Can you see it?
It's coming.
This is section 5, A, B, C, D, E. These are the rules, straight up. B says, following the adoption of such resolution, blah, 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 should be appointed no less than 3 or 4 of my members to investigate and report to the board. These are our rules regarding getting rid of board members.
Well, now that's an officer right there. It says an officer may be removed. So
this is section 5, right?
Right. This is section 5.
Yes.
It says an officer. So that's not a general board member. That's an officer of the board.
But this is the section that you're changing, correct, Carla? Section 5, fonts.
No, and I don't have that document open, but I can. We're on the article that talks about just regular board members.
All right.
You know, an officer is just another board member anyway, right? So,
Exactly.
Yeah. So it applies to everyone. It's going to say you missed 3 committee meetings and 3 board meetings any time in the year, not consecutive necessarily, and you're subject to removal. So yes, we still have to follow due process, but if they miss 3 meetings, you know, we're not, you know, we had a lot of discussion about this on the committee. If somebody misses 3 meetings in a row, they probably have something bad going on in their life. We're more concerned with people who just show up when they feel like it.
Right.
Okay, so yes. So let's not go down this rat hole because we have other business to conduct tonight. I'll get this to the chairman before Thursday so that it can be announced at the Thursday meeting for a vote in October. I think we just digressed. I think we were on combining committees.
Right.
Did I lose track here?
No, I mean, because you actually, your topic, I mean, this topic was the last topic.
Yeah.
We and I don't want to deal with it tonight, but I need to deal with combining the. I would like to maybe talk about it during the month, and you know, we can talk about it in the next X meeting, unless you guys want to deal with it now, and then we can.
If everybody wants to talk about combining committees now, I'm up for that. I think you know, it's just we're very short of members tonight, so I'm not sure if we're prepared to have that conversation because, so for example, we talked about combining environmental concerns and parks, but we don't have Ivan Boris. So do we do this tonight or do we save it for when we have more participation?
I think it needs to be tabled.
I think.
So
Okay.
Ms. Lanzano,
I don't think we do it tonight, especially, for example, like Ivan's not here, so it doesn't really make.
Ivan's not here, Alfredo's not here, Tolene's not here.
It doesn't make sense.
You know, it is their committees, but that's what I say. I suggest we table it until the next meeting. But we, that can go on the agenda in October.
What? What?
All right. So with that being said, board members, we've got our meeting for Thursday. Do we have anything else we need to talk about before adjournment?
You coming to get your stuff? Your parents are waiting for you? Baby, I'm staying here.
Motion for adjournment.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay. Motion's been made. Any second? Second, Ms. Benitez, seconded.
This is Carla. I second that.
All in favor of adjourning said motion, excuse me, adjourning meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Yeah. You don't think I heard the conversation?
All right, board members. You oppose Clinton? Oh, Dr. You have something?
I said nay.
Oh. Okay, so we've got one nay.
Okay.
That says aye. Yes, Clinton, what's up?
Nothing. Aye. That's what I meant to say. Aye.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm out. Listen, you guys take
it. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Showing up. So
Good night, guys.
this is our executive committee meeting. So you've met our district manager, Mr. Torres. I don't know who you're looking to see. Clinton Mike. I'm just going across my screen. Ajeria Bennett is next to me. She's next to you, and Miss Benitez is on the other side. I don't know who you're staying. We have our community associate, Ursula Green. Below you, of course, Miss Clyde. Miss Carla Versati, who you've heard. Mr. Lanzano was here as well. I think he's still here. Mr. Hall jumped off. So anyway, that's it. Like I said, I've been recording this. So again, we welcome you. So we still have some issues that we're working out, but nonetheless, we're gonna get it together. All right. So anyway, board members, I am done. Anything else you guys have? Okay. All right. Take care, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
All right.